remember that they are changing my voice. This is part 2. The whore is drunk and extremely stupid, regardless of how many college degrees she has, okay, regardless of whether it's a martial arts system, okay, if they're not obeying God through me, they're in the spirit of the whore that is drunk and extremely stupid. Their religions, their gangways, their military, no matter what it is, they're in a dumb spirit, and everyone knows it these days. It's like everything you see on TV is like a circus. Everything on YouTube, it's very silly, very stupid. She is miserable yet giddy at times, and at other times dark and more obviously evil, dark-spirited. For those of you who are racist pieces of shit. She is affected by trying to derive pleasure and survive from betraying God and all the righteous. She is similar to a slut who marries as a virgin but marries an idolater in any church. Churches are evil witchcraft centers, and witchcraft is technology, chemistry, psychology, and other childish tricks. Humanity was forged, those outside of the divine order. They are forged in the depths of the abyss. After the rebellion in the garden, they are of Cain. 666 is humanity's number, and the 7 churches are all the church organizations, basically. And they are the 7 heads of the beast, and their lamps are Luciferian. Okay, so now there's different ways to look at it, right? You can say that the 7 churches refer to groups of people in heaven that are supposed to be loyal to Christ. But as we look at the 7 heads and we look at it carefully, it's clear that you have to make it clear that the churches on this planet are evil. So I just describe it as they refer to the churches on this planet, and they've fallen out of grace. And those who are righteous, they're righteous, and they're rallying to me in spirit, and so on and so forth. You also got to realize that, when you look at the recent military propaganda, I was going to leave this alone, but they kept harassing me. It's very clown-like, right? So when people hear me say, hey, there's a PSYOP and the military's doing it, they believe me in this day and age we live in, 2025. Because the military is acting like a bunch of fucking clowns. They're acting like kids. You see a bunch of gay people there, you see kind of gender-neutral lesbians, and again, this has to be said. If you fire at Christ and say, don't talk about the military, what's going to happen? He's going to fire back. So they signed up for it. The people who are running a PSYOP on Jesus, who's way above the military, all the militaries ever were put together, and all the governments ever were put together, they're not doing the military any favor. Their commanding officers aren't doing them any favors. Their politicians, their governing class, their families, they've come together to encourage them to come into the same spirit that's persecuting Christ. Now, in American history, all military spirits were weak. Sometimes they did things that were better than others, like in fighting World War II, what have you. But in every generation, they were always satanic. And everyone knows it. If you listen to what their own churches are saying, quite often they say the politicians are satanic. What does it say in Proverbs? What does it say in Matthew 10, right? No servant can be greater. If a ruler is corrupt, all his officials become wicked. That's what it says in Proverbs. Everyone knows this. It's stupid to be dumb enough to think I should give the first fuck about insulting the military. My goodness. These people did not hesitate to run a PSYOP on me, the most righteous person ever lived, the son of a humanitarian who's the most righteous brain surgeon in their country's history and ever possible. What kind of respect do they deserve? Respect is earned. Again, I tell you, respect is earned. The main people bashing the military are the governing class, Donald Trump, the Secretary of State, the Defense Department, the Director of the CIA. These are the dumb fucks who think it's smart to persecute me. The dickheads pulling their strings. Fucking idiots. Don't be mad at me. Be mad at me makes you a bitch. Everyone just, we can go point by point anytime you want. Be mad at the dumb sons of bitches who said run a PSYOP on Jesus and then say, hey, you can't say that about the military, like some kind of kid hiding behind the teacher like a bitch. Okay, so they changed my voice to try to make it so it sounds corny or something, but people believe me and not them nonetheless, because of what I'm saying, because of who I am, because immediately the governing class and all the celebrities they see, everywhere they look, they see people who aren't respectable. So where was I? Humanity was forged in the depths of the abyss after the rebellion in the garden. They are of Cain. Obviously, I'm not talking about myself and my forefathers and my mother, what have you. My forefathers and foremothers, on my dad's side and my mother, so on and so forth. 666 is humanity's number, and the 7 churches are all the church organizations, and they are the 7 heads of the beast, and the lamps are Luciferian. Of a man refers to being of the flesh of a man, as a woman was also made from the flesh of a man, the rib, and they're pretending that they are right with God, and or rebelling thus the saying of the snake, ye shall be like God. So they're relying on their own flesh, their sciences, they're relying on things other than God, and they refuse to obey God through me. That's what a lot of that racism is about, and that Masonic self-direction, right? Nathan Bedford Forrest, who started the Klan, was a Mason. Albert Pike was a Mason. He was Confederate general, on and on. And Francis Galton, who coined the term eugenics, was a Mason. So a bunch of racist people created Freemasonry, and at times they bring in token minorities, what have you, to confuse that. But they insist on the white man's agenda. That's the phrase, token minority. Okay. So where was I here? Eve chose to follow the snake/dragon, and the beast is mankind. I am from above, not where they fell to. So again, the 8th king is said to be the beast who belongs to the 7. And the 7 are hells and kings. If you look to Jeremiah 2, you'll see that they did all kinds of prostitution and idolatry on the hells. Jeremiah 2. I see Jeremiah chapters 1 through 4 to put it in context more. Okay, it's clear that it's talking about that. It's talking about the lifeblood of people they killed in Jeremiah chapters 1 through 4. It's talking about the hells. It's talking about the idolatry and how they're born from families that worship false idols. That sexual activity, that idolatry, it goes hand in hand. We see that in the Revelation, in the first 4 chapters or so, where it talks about Jezebel and the sexual immorality of Jezebel and so on and so forth. Okay. So the 8th king and the 7 and the 10 horns are going to their destruction. Right? That means eternal punishment, to their destruction. The words instruction and destruction are connected. They're following the Luciferian lights, the Luciferian instruction, Luciferian conceptions of justice. They don't believe in universal pinpoint and moral precision, which is what is being discussed in the Bible time and time again. They have their own broken code. And the golden rule and the greatest commandment transcend any silly rules that are given. We see that in the New Testament, where Christ says that you're allowed to eat foods that you weren't allowed to eat before. What matters is you're in the divine order, that you're doing God's work. What comes from your heart and out of your mouth is what defiles you, not what goes into your mouth. Okay, in regards to food. So Eve, Babylon, and Hagar are like the main points of references for the prostitute. Eve, when she listened to the dragon, right, who's also in Revelation, the whore's riding the beast, listening to the dragon. And Babylon is described as a prostitute, right? Jerusalem, Israel, Judah are also described as prostitutes in Jeremiah, for example. That's why Hagar is said to be the prostitute. Hagar stands for Jerusalem, it stands for the Jewish people, it stands for Israel. Those who don't obey God through me, which is all of them right now. My mom is blameless and she's, mixed with Jewish or something. That's a more controversial topic, but I think that's the case. And we see that the rest of them have chosen in their hearts, if you define them as white Jewish people, for example, Ashkenazi, Sephardim, what have you, even Ethiopian ones, the 3 main groups that they cite as being quote-unquote valid, and anyone like them, that they have followed Jerusalem of this world, which is lost in sin, and it also correlates to Mount Sinai. Sin, Alpha I. That's their belief system. That's how they see it. They wage war against me, but I easily triumph. And they hate their souls, spirits, ways, etc. And they especially hate their whore punk spirit, right? The Babylonian whore, the harlot, what have you. Okay. So they use those points of references: Eve, Babylon, Hagar, what have you in the Bible. And so the beast is said to burn them. So the beast again is the eighth king that refers to the whole beast. It's being led by the seven heavens of the beast, which are being influenced by the dragon, which also has heads and horns. And the dragon, I think, simply refers to the most evil people on the planet who are very influential, right? So there's another layer of it. It's kind of like what conspiracy theorists say, where they say there's all these layers of things, right? Where there's a secret society structure. No matter how you slice it, that's the case. And we see that if you study the history of the CIA and how they set up cults and they control gangs and bring in drugs and so on and so forth. There's layers of it, and the CIA director is in the top layer. There's people above him, and there's people above them, and so on and so forth. So it is with the beast and the prostitute, okay, and the dragon. So the beast is humanity's number. It's Adam listening to Eve again. That's what that's referring to. It's still going on, and the snake is the dragon that's influencing her, and she's too dumb to listen to me, and she listens to the humanity. She listens to the beast. The heads of the beast, the satanic idols, and she listens to the devil, right? And it's symbolic of women listening to that. It's symbolic of cities that listen to that. The city is seen as like a woman, and the king is seen as a man, and it's supposed to be a man, and so on and so forth. Okay. They're fuming a little bit now, so let me just try to wrap this up here. I didn't want to make the video this long. I'm going to be doing this video again without any yelling. In the future if I'm still alive, but there's a good chance that my flesh might be dead by Thursday. Again, I've been saying this every time these days. I feel that it's important to inform you about there's a good chance of that, but it's not guaranteed. There's a good chance that I'm still going to be alive, even next month, but hopefully not, because there doesn't seem to be a point in being here other than moral repetition to give people every chance they have, and I don't think that people are going to rally to me. But I know for sure that it's wise to keep making videos and to keep doing God's work no matter what. It's clear cut. Nothing is more clear than that. Okay. So where was I here? So I said that they tried to wage war against me, but I easily triumphed because I'm King of Kings, right? I am who I am. What God said to Moses, he said, go tell the Jews I am who I am. So I tell the Jews who are in rebellion right now, I am who I am. I tell the Gentile in rebellion, the LGBT community especially, I am who I am. I'm going to win. It's not smart to try to take on the top martial arts ever possible, especially when you do the math and figure out that God made me this way. Why would you think that you could outsmart me or beat me? Why would you think that when the smoke clears that you have gained something? It's very stupid, very arrogant of you, very narcissistic, very silly. And I don't say this to insult you. I spend a lot of time trying to reason with you people. Okay, even though you're persecuting me. And I think a lot of you somewhat appreciate that, at least. Okay, and I'm certainly not kissing your you-know-what and so on and so forth. So let's take a moment here because what I just said, and I don't want to kind of take away from these other things I'm saying. So, okay, so where was I here? Okay. So the prostitute, her presence is ruined, right? Like the bread of the presence of God in the Greco-Roman mythology, the bread stands for Demeter at times in the Orphic mysteries, in the Dionysian cults, the young Zeus cults, the ritual madness cults, the theater arts cults. Okay. In the Bible, we see the bread stands for the presence of God. It can also stand for the bread of affliction, the bread of wickedness. Woe to the downpressers, it says in that Bob Marley song, right? They eat the bread of sorrow. They eat the bread of sack, robbing their chance for tomorrow. Sack tomorrow. Again, I'm not a Rastafari, but I wanted you to kind of see that this connects all throughout culture, all throughout different cultures and all throughout different time periods. Okay. Now, there was Dionysian cults well before the Bible was written, and as far as anyone can tell, before the Torah was written is what the historical evidence tells us, but maybe they fabricated, but it's safe to say that these ideas go back quite some time. And of course, the Dionysian cults were influenced by the African cults that influenced the Middle Eastern cults, which in turn influenced the Dionysian cults and things of that nature. Okay. A mighty angel expresses itself through me as I am the gate. The earth was illuminated in the spiritual realm by by the angel, right? The angle through me is I am the gate. The earth is clearly kind of being affected by my presence, by my state of being, where I get very serious with the martial arts. It illuminates the earth in that sense in the spiritual realm. I curse the world, and all the nations for their rebellion, as they are drunk with evil, guilt, ill-gotten gains, acting, childishness, folly, and rape by deception, spirits, and more. Their sins are figuratively piled up to heaven. Obviously, God knows. As the world and the spirits guiding them gave them false glory, right? And they gave themselves an infinite amount of false glory and false luxury in their minds, right? They will have an infinite amount of torment and grief. So they basically did things in a way where they felt like they're important. They're like, I'm a president, I'm a CEO, and they start giving themselves these titles, and they start doing things a certain way, and these things aren't blessed by God, that, God has not chosen them. They've chosen themselves and relied on their own flesh, and they thought that they were smart, and so on and so forth, okay? And so that's what's referring to when it says, give her as much torment, give her as much torment and grief as the luxury as she gave herself, right? She says she sits enthroned as queen, okay? And that goes back to it referring to the prostitute, that part of them that's supposed to receive God, receiving the devil, saying that it sits enthroned as queen, and they get that spirit conveyed from Eve, who conveyed that spirit to Adam, right? The snake, the fruits of wickedness, the fruits of deception, the fruits of their evil scheme, impressed upon Adam by the snake through the woman. And so it is with the dragon and the prostitute impressing upon it to the beast, who is the eighth king, okay, who belongs to the seven, who is influenced by the seven, who are satanic deities, who are influenced by the devil, right? Think of the heads, right, which are the hells, going back to Jeremiah 2, the hells where they prostitute themselves, the kings that they follow, and the deities the kings worship, which are satanic creations and constructs. I suggest you listen to it several times, take notes, ask questions in the comments. Okay. People must come out of their ways and obey God through me before my literal flesh dies, to repent, and in a timely fashion. I've been saying this for years. I said this in over 1,000 videos by now, easy. No one should have children no matter what. She betrayed the Royal African Falcon top martial artist, king of kings, that's me, okay. She betrayed the kings before me, those who are in the divine order, okay. Obviously, I'm, the pinnacle of all kings in the divine order. They betrayed God. The horror spirit is worthless, and those in it are like the dung on the ground. They're like corpses. They go insane from trying not to mourn, to the point of suicide. So they don't commit suicide. I mean, that's something you expect the righteous to do more in this day and age. I think that the 50,000 suicides a year we see here in America, for example, are disproportionately people who are more kind-hearted than others, I'd imagine, but not always. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but certainly I'm not wrong about the things that I tell you that I'm sure about. There's no way I could be wrong about my religion and so on and so forth. But if these people truly had the wisdom to mourn, that they would kill themselves after my flesh dies, or they would fight to the death, okay, and then kill themselves, go on to blaze glory, what have you, because they're surrounded by very evil people who have been channeling demons, like it says in Revelation 8 and 9, when you put them together, Revelation 16 as well. The whore and the people are starved for love. They're starved for wisdom, starved for righteousness and justice and all the monotheistic martial art principles in their true form. They can't be true men or women, just Babylon scum. Her products and works, her arts, her sciences, her fruits, especially her martial arts systems, religions, and marriages are worthless. And the kings of the earth and the others mourn in their own ways. Again, this is translating and decoding Revelation 18 at this point for you. We're almost done here. They return to the dust in the snake, figuratively speaking. So they return to the dust because they betrayed God, like it says in the Old Testament, okay, and in Isaiah and Genesis, what have you. And it says that the snake, licks dust, that the worm that devours them once they return to that spiritual state of being filth is never satisfied, and the flames that burn them are never quenched. Okay. Okay, so then when their flesh dies, they go to hell. The righteous are told to rejoice. A mighty angel of reproduction is revealed, as a mighty angel expresses itself through me and figuratively throws a boulder the size of a large millstone into the sea. This goes back to Matthew, I believe it is, okay, where it says that it's better for you to have a large millstone hung around your neck and to be thrown into the sea, right? The sea stands for the peoples and nations, the multitudes of languages. It could be drowned in the sea of lava, okay? It'll be drowned in the sea literally, than to lead the people astray, especially the children, and to have a worse fate than that. Okay, that's part of why it's comparing it to a large millstone put around the neck and thrown into the sea, right? Okay, so I kind of explained it a little wrong. What I'm saying here is that you're better off being literally drowned in the sea with a millstone around your neck than being figuratively drowned with a millstone around your neck, referring to you're being thrown into the sea that's turning into wine, which turns into, turning water into wine again. It's parallels to the so-called miracle, okay, which was figurative. But anyway, the sea turns into the wine of the fury of God's wrath, which turns into a burning lake of sulfur, a burning lake of fire, and it burns the insides of these people. So again, what happens is that because they're wicked, they're drunk off the blood of the saints, the group spirit is evil, and the group spirit is chewing up themselves and their spirits and their souls. Okay, and it's being compared to them being drunk off the blood of the saints, like literally, mixing blood with wine or something, and it turning into fire and burning their insides or something, but it's burning their soul, and it's burning it forever, and the smoke from their torment rises forever and ever. But it's very sad that lots of people have kind of decoded this thing over the years, and the vast majority of them weren't moved enough to do the right thing. They looked at this, they knew it must be true, they looked at the explanation and said, yeah, spirits work like that, people have souls. They came to those conclusions, and they still kept doing evil and kept organizing evil, which goes back to the heads of the beast, right? These are monsters who are leading you people. Okay. The souls and the spirits of the offspring, again, the word spring, the springs of water, the souls and the spirit of the offsprings of rebels are thrown into hell, and their leader failed them. Their leader and leaders failed them. By their gimmicks like technology, chemistry, and psychology, the world was led astray, right? By the gimmicks of the devil, through the prostitute. A lot of these guys fallen females, doing whatever it takes for a female. The blood of prophets and God's holy people and all who were slaughtered on earth are found on her and her offspring. And like it says in Jeremiah, God says he's going to punish them and their children's children. And what it refers to is their children's children forevermore, because they don't have a way to repent, and it's overkill by the technologies of the government that they cannot account for. If you repent, are you going to reproduce? No. If you repent, okay, are you from some kind of people who are decent enough to bring in a child as the possibility to be smart enough to repent? Are you going to reproduce? No. Because of artificial intelligence, brain hacking, them playing stupid about gang stalking, all the technologies, how much they built on psychology. You can't trust the governing class no matter what happens. They do not have the ability to convince you can trust them. And on top of that, they'll have screamed me out in the divine verdict, which is on my lips, Proverbs 16:10, is that no one's supposed to reproduce no matter what. It's pure evil to reproduce. A huge part of Revelation is about reproduction. They're following the idols. The idols are fertility deities like Pan and Dionysus, right? In their Middle Eastern and Mesopotamian forms, like Asherah, the so-called queen of heaven, right? She thinks she sits enthroned as queen. Her name's a play on words for Azhera, and she's the wife of Baal. And one of Jupiter's epitaphs, right, is Jupiter Baal, and he's the Roman equivalent of Zeus, and Baal is the Roman equivalent of Zeus and Jupiter and Set in Egypt, who are all deities of rape by deception, fertility, controlling people's mind, body, soul, and spirit in an evil way, and so on and so forth. And Zeus's father said to be Cronus, Crow's son, right? The sun turning black, a.k.a. Saturn, whose name's a play on words for R, Satan, R in art. Retard is a play on words for red art. Those who have the evil arts and ways and paths are retarded. It is stupid. Folly is an unruly woman. Only a dumbass follows the devil. It's open and shut.